The mission station's setting was magnificent. From the foot of Turnip Mountain, the buildings overlooked the broad, fertile Coosa River Valley. During autumn harvest, pumpkins, squash, beans, and corn were plentiful in the bottomland fields. Grapes, persimmons, chestnuts, walnuts, and hickory nuts ripened in forests and woodland patches. Fish and rabbits, squirrels, turkey, deer, bear, and other game were caught, trapped, or slain, and stands of wildflowers added splashes of seasonal color: tall ironweed, queen of the meadow, goldenrod, touch-me-not, snakeroot, and boneset. The nearby Cherokee settlement on the Coosa River, which meandered lazily through the valley, was called Turnip Town. The Christian missionaries called their station Havice, in honor of a benefactor who contributed to their undertaking. Havice Station began as a one-room log cabin on 15 cultivated acres and eventually included a residence, mission building, school, and barn to serve 25 to 100 students. The missionaries at Havice, Elizur and Esther Butler, were well known to the Cherokee. They had previously served missions in Brainerd, Tennessee, and Creek Path, Alabama, and came to this post on the old Creek Path in 1826. They were Presbyterians, but named their first child for Samuel Worcester, the illustrious Congregationalist missionary at New Echota, some 40 miles distant. The alliance between the Butlers and Worcesters would play a key role in the slowly unfolding tragedy involving the Cherokee people. In 1829, Esther Butler died. The headstone marking her grave noted her exemplary piety and devotion to missionary work, and that she had died in the triumph of Christian faith. Her husband declared, "O grave, where is thy victory?" Elizur's steadfast faith soon led him to infamy, incarceration, and life far from Havice mission. When the day of departure arrived, perhaps he took comfort in knowing that his wife's grave would remain at the foot of the rise overlooking the magnificent sun-splashed valley. But demented fate, in its cunning, had something else in mind. When a new Georgia law required whites to obtain a license to reside in the Cherokee Nation and to swear an oath of fidelity to the state, Butler and Samuel Worcester were two of the 11 missionaries who refused to comply. They were arrested, convicted, and sentenced to 4 years in the Georgia penitentiary. 9 received pardons in return for leaving Georgia, but Butler and Worcester refused to concede that the state had sovereignty over the Cherokee people. In its landmark 1832 decision, the United States Supreme Court ruled in favor of the missionaries and Cherokee sovereignty, but the victory proved hollow when federal and state governments ignored it. As President Andrew Jackson put it, "Justice Marshall has made his decision. Now let him enforce it." So Worcester and Butler continued to languish in prison. Finally, when it became clear that further opposition would not help the Cherokee, they accepted pardons in 1833. Each returned to his mission work, and each went with the Cherokee during the time of the removal. They continued their work among the Cherokee in Oklahoma, eventually perishing there in 1859 and 1857 respectively. When Butler went west on the Trail of Tears, his second wife, Lucy, remained in the east temporarily. Of the terrible removal, she wrote, "It is to be feared many will be cut down by death." Indeed, 4,000 Cherokees would perish. Lucy despaired of any hope that Americans would awaken to a sense of fairness and duty. "Will they not?" she asked. "Think of the multitudes among the various tribes that have within a few years been swept into eternity by the cupidity of the white man, who is in the enjoyment of wealth and freedom on the original soil of these oppressed Indians." The cupidity did not end. One Cherokee leader described their helplessness this way: "Strangers urge our removal to make room for their settlements. They point to the west, and there they say we can be happy. Our national existence is suspended on the faith and honor of the United States alone. We are in the paw of a lion. Convenience may induce him to crush, and with a faint struggle we may cease to be." In the end, the Cherokee left Georgia, to forge a new homeland far away. A century and a half later, the Cherokee had not forgotten Worcester and Butler. In 1994, tribal leaders arranged for wreaths to be laid at the graves of 7 white friends of the Cherokee who stood by their side, a select group that included the 2 missionaries who willingly endured 16 months in the Georgia penitentiary. The Trail of Tears remains one of America's most poignant episodes, and Georgia was the epicenter of many dramatic events leading to and culminating with the Cherokee removal. Some of the Georgia landmarks are well preserved today, among them New Echota and the homes of Major Ridge, Joseph Van, and John Ross. But most sites vanished over time. Almost nothing remains of Havice Mission Station, where Elizur Butler served the Cherokee for years and was arrested by the Georgia Guard in 1831. The only existing artifact is the grave of his first wife, Esther. Any expectation that Esther's resting place might remain tranquil and lovely proved stillborn. Fate couldn't have bequeathed an unkinder setting. Today, the solitary grave stands within a wrought iron fence inside a chain-link fence below the grade of busy Georgia Highway 20, about 12 miles west of Rome. To the south and southwest are Ash Pond 4 and an ash disposal embankment, perversely resembling a mound from the Mississippian culture that predated the Cherokee. These are relics of a recently decommissioned and demolished power plant. 195 years after her death, and almost as long since her husband and the people they served were unexpectedly swept to a new homeland, Esther Butler's grave remains, but there is no evidence that loving hands tend to it today or that the community remembers its existence and significance. On occasion, workers come by to spray herbicide, killing the vegetation and giving the plot a particularly neglected and bleak aspect. Today, Esther's gravesite is little more than an inconvenience to mowing crews. The gravesite is located below the grade of Georgia Highway 20, about 1/2 mile west of the Georgia Highway 100 intersection. Finding the site is challenging, and parking on the highway right-of-way may be hazardous, so take care. Thank you for watching this Georgia Backroads program.